I believe we are now live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first ever episode of Rock and Stone. This is a side project. This is a very silly thing. This is a bit of a 40k them crooked vultures situation. We've got a few people from different teams together to start a faction-specific podcast because we were having some good chats around the leagues of Votann, the newest army in 40k, to come out, and we figured that a Votann specific podcast might have little legs to go and do something with. So that's what we're doing. We're going to be talking all things Votann. I don't know how regularly we'll do this yet. We'll work it out. But the goal will be to talk through the ins and outs of the Votann Index, Votann rules, our experiences with the army, little bit of Votann lore and fluff and all that stuff as well. And then obviously down the line when Votann gets some exciting new toys, we can explore all of that as well. So I'll introduce my other esteemed guests from two of the great 40k teams in just a moment, and then we'll get into talking about the Votann Index and its bumpy ride in 10th so far. I am Tom, lowest of men, and I am obviously a 6++ member, and I'm very gobby, as you know, because you'll have heard me on the internet, so that may be why you're here. But I'm joined tonight by two wonderful people, one of which, no offense, James, is the most handsome man in 40k, Jake Harding. Yeah, there's no point, right? You just have to hold your hands up. Jake, how you doing, man?
It's an award that is won, and every year there's only one person that's in contention, and it's this guy over here. A close second is Chris from 6++.
Oh, that's nice. Bit of flattery for our captain. I respect that.
Just because I'm on his channel, so you got to respect it.
Yeah. I don't know how Steve will feel about that, but that's all right.
Oh, he knows he's third.
Jake, do you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, and then or your background with the leagues of Votann?
This is like the AA meeting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jake. I play Votann.
I love dwarves.
Yeah. So from Vanguard Tactics on YouTube. So we do like regular live streams on Wednesday nights, 7 p.m, where we do play battle reports. I play Votann. No one else plays Votann because they know what happens. We all have like one army, no one else allowed to touch. Mine is that. I love Votann. The moment the first model got announced from Games Workshop, what was it, like around April Fools last year or something like that? Instantly fell in love. I've loved Warhammer Fantasy for years. I saw a dwarf in 40k. I thought this was my time. So and been loving them ever since, except for that rocky patch at the start of 10.
Begrudgingly loving them.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. No, wonderful, and obviously Vanguard, absolute giants in the game, and there are some good Votann bat reps on the Vanguard page if you want to go and see that. And actually, I think the first thing I did when I was starting to pick up Votann in 10th was listen to you on Vanguard Tactics talking about the army. I think you did a very good job of hiding your disappointment in those videos.
It's a skill, I think. I was like, I really like this. This is fun.
Great. This is really good. This will be fine. Okay, and also tonight joining me is the wonderful James Marsden from Toys of Mass Destruction. James, tell us a bit about yourself, man.
So it's Toys of Mass Destruction. We do regular tournaments kind of once a quarter, kind of local to Hertfordshire. We've got a little bit of a podcast going, but kind of we've had quite a few things kind of happen with the team. Good things. I've had a baby. One of our mates has started a new business, so we kind of put it on hold a little bit at the moment. I played Votann, kind of picked up Votann similar as a kind of painting project when they first came out. Finally built up to 2k towards the end of 9th and ran them, I think, in the last one or two tournaments of 9th.
You did.
Mainly as just a break from Necrons.
Yep.
I played over 200 games as Necrons and was like, I need something else to play. I love dwarves. So it was a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I played you at one of those tournaments. I think you were my only loss to Votann in 9th edition. Yeah. I was going into it, I was like, I've never beaten James, but he is on Votann, which I've always beaten. Maybe I've got a chance. And now I got schooled. Absolutely schooled.
That was not a close game.
No, I never really put the pressure on enough in that game. I just got gently backhanded by the dwarves. But it was a slightly different way of playing Votann to what I'd gone up against, actually. And you play it in a much more measured and controlled way.
I back in 9th, he was running the big 20-man blobs of Halfkin.
Yeah.
Which was, I'm really sad that you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, the mass dwarves were really, really good. Cool. As for myself, it's quite a similar story. When Votann dropped, obviously they had the April Fool's release. I wasn't massively taken with that one dwarf, but then once the models started coming, stuff like the Hearthguard and the Landfort and some of these big vehicles and cool characters and stuff, I was just like, yeah, this is extremely cool. And I had a bit of a sort of inverse reaction when everyone was really outraged about Votann. I was kind of like, oh, leave them alone. They're brand new. It's only a little dwarf army.
They're only small.
Yeah, they're only small. It's not their fault. The rules writers are often not. I was kind of like, oh, okay. Well, everyone's hating on them, so I want to kind of get some and paint some. And they are lovely to paint actually, because it's sort of Space Marines, a little bit of extra detail here and there, but really it's nice just painting nice armor effects and stuff, which I'm really enjoying because I'm not a natural painter, but I'm finding these something I can actually get to a point where I feel pretty happy with them, which is great. Okay, right. Well, let's do some greetings to our various guests. We've got Phil Gill in the chat, Scrivo's in the chat saying, yes, Jake. Yep, that's exactly the kind of energy
we did get to play.
Yes, he played you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was absolutely going to bend me over. I'm not going to lie. After his first, he did the moment an aggressor unit gets out, shoots something, and then moves right back into a land raider. I'm like, oh god, he's got me, hasn't he? But my little tubby dwarfs were too much for him. So that was a great game.
He actually, I've seen in his list building in our chat at the moment, judgment tokens come up. I think you're in his head because he keeps saying things about sort of trying to counter Votann tech. And I love the idea of Votann being a meta menace, and you've got to plan for the Votann matchup.
He's just right here.
That's living rent free in Scrivo's head. Hello to Existence UK. Hello to Is Life. Hello to Scrivo again. Sorry, Scrivo. Hi, Lee Churchwood, and hi, Kobe. There was a bit of mic cutting out Is Life. I think it cut out at the start. I think it's now okay.
I think it should be fine.
I think it's all right now. There was a slight cutout, but if it does persist, let us know.
Yeah, I could have a look. So.
Yeah, no problem. And also, just let us know whose mic is cutting out, just in case we need to address that. But absolutely fine. Wonderful. Okay, right. Let's chat. Let's give you a bit of an overview of how it's been for Votann, because it's been a bit of a crazy ride. Let's talk about the return of Votann. How would you describe and define the return of the Leagues of Votann to 40k, Jake, as someone who is right on the front lines of it?
What, as in from 9th edition? Oh, God. You ever watch Avengers Infinity War, where Thanos just sort of casually strolls in with his massive glove, proceeds to turn the whole world upside down, and then no one really speaks about him for about 4 years? I think that's how it felt. Their book got obviously leaked, as sadly a lot of things do, depending on which side of the coin you are, and it was just nuts. The internet exploded. There was outrage. These are too powerful. They're too cheap. Everything like that.
It's one of the largest outrages I've seen, kind of in
I think so, yeah. But other than I think at the time, I can't really compare. Even Eldar in 10th edition, I don't think had that much outrage.
It felt different.
Yeah, and
So I think they probably made people angrier than anybody else.
Yeah, which is quite ironic, really, isn't it? for the dwarfs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone's got a massive grudge against them. And then as we sort of move on, we see that obviously they did get the nerfs they deserved and everything. Oh, Tom's thing's gone.
Classic.
Now, is he back? You back, Tom?
Hey.
You good?
Yeah, I think I had a brief technical concern there. I think we're now back in the room.
Oh, that's right. We were just saying about how obviously because the outrage was so much, Games Workshop did quite well to address it quite quickly.
Well, they did it even before the book was out.
Yeah, which is even more nuts, I think, is fair to say. Oh, Tom's cutting it out.
Oh, goodness gracious! Right, let's try again.
Gracious, amazing.
Is this working?
I think you're right. Anyway, I'll keep rambling about Votann. So the main thing was obviously they addressed it quite quickly. Points went up, and then I believe in chapter approved the points went down, didn't they? Some of them went down. Thunderkin went down.
I think some went down, and then some others went up again.
Yeah, which was fun for all the family. But yeah, so they've had quite a rocky start, especially models wise, they haven't had the biggest selection either. So I think like when you have an army that has quite a low model count, when you nerf a unit, it hits the army very hard. It's not like a Space Marines where, you know, the equivalent of, you know, one unit is another unit, you know, type of thing. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think it's fair to say. So far so good, really. We've had more limited edition models than I think I've seen for any other army as well, so that's cool. Overall
they obviously had some spare sculpts.
Yeah. Overall I think it was positive though. Like if we take out like the mass outrage and then like where it got to, I felt was a very healthy part. Like they definitely struggled doing secondaries back in 9th edition.
Definitely.
But their sheer damage output could sort of make up for it. It was like a ticking time bomb. Like you basically get X amount of time to win the game, and if you're not, you know, and if you can survive that, then you do it, type of thing.
Yeah, it was dramatic. It was definitely dramatic, I think. But I think people have emotionally recovered from it all now, and I think there were some lessons there about probably what you don't do when you're trying to release a new book. Don't try and literally give it everything under the sun.
Yeah, but I did feel they were in a good place. I think eventually at the end of 9, they were in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, they had quite a distinct place as well. They played in that sort of slow, steady, creeping way, and they did have their weak spots, but they also had their strengths, and they did feel very dwarfy. And even the secondary game felt very dwarfy by the end. You know, you had to go and do specific things and roll onto points on the map at the right time and all that stuff. And obviously that takes us through to the present. Sorry, everyone, for my technical issues. I think we're through them now, hopefully. But Jake very bravely just soldiered on, which I appreciate.
the little legs can get to the finish line eventually.
That's exactly it. I was trying to embody the Votann release in real time by just being complete chaos and all over the shop.
Visual representation.
Yeah. So let's talk about the 10th edition index, because obviously this came out, and I think Votann basically dropped off the map for a little while. There was a real issue because this was not an index that was pulling up trees. So what do we think the main issues with the Votann were on their release in 10th edition, other than the fact that obviously Eldar killed everyone? If we ignore what Eldar were doing, what were Votann's issues?
I'll let you go first, James. I think
go for it.
You're better at analysing than me, I think.
I think the critical issue was that the kind of foundation we had at the end of 9th of what felt to play Votann was just gone. So you lost a triple judgment. Everything lost a ballistic skill, bar I think the half guard, and then all the kind of unique little bits we'd come to know and love in 9th Votann all went. Which wasn't too dissimilar to what obviously a lot of other armies were facing, but because Votann was so new, it almost felt a little worse. So you kind of, all the flavour and all the kind of tech you used to have, you didn't have, and as Jake said, because the roster's so small, you feel that even more.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair, because they suddenly didn't feel particularly durable.
No,
they still didn't feel like you got much stuff. I think that was the other key thing, right? Was that the actual bodies on the board didn't really get much better than it had been, even when they were jacked up on rules.
I mean, I remember kind of the first 10th list I built was almost the same models I was running in 9th. And I was like, but everything hits worse and I don't have the same tech. What am I gaining here? I'm missing something.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there were some nice tricks. I always thought, looking at the indexes, that there were a couple of nice enhancements. There were some nice stratagems. There was some stuff you could do. But there were also very real limits on it. Like, it's not a high AP index.
No.
There's a real lack of AP across the index. There are like a couple of units that can get to AP3, although obviously melee is a bit different, but we'll talk about that another day. But you can certainly have a good time in melee if you are so minded. And I think in other ways as well, it just felt a little bit clunky. With the lack of assets to play the mission, didn't really feel like it was very easy to play the cards or even play fixed. You didn't have quite enough stuff, and it felt like a lot of other stuff had stuff that, it's quite an honest index, right? You're going to roll forward, you're going to shoot stuff, you're going to fight, and then other people are like, oh, this guy, you can't shoot me outside of 12, or I can shoot you from miles away with tons of mortal wounds, or I go up in the air and come back down behind you, all of these kinds of things. And you're sort of like, oh, I'm wandering around on my little legs, and you're just dancing around me doing all kinds of nonsense. So it felt like it was quite hard for it to keep up. I think to an extent that is still an issue into some of the armies in the game. I don't think it's completely gone away. But obviously, I think some of the changes now have definitely created a lot more room for optimism. So maybe we can talk about that next. Let's think about the data slate, because this has brought Votann players back out to play again in force. There's quite a lot of them about at the minute, right? And the win rate looks good, which is lovely. I wasn't sure quite where it would end up, but actually it's looking healthy, like above 50. So that's a really enjoyable place for them to be. So what do we think about the
34%? Eh?
What, sorry?
Much better than 34%.
It's a lot better than 34. Yeah, exactly that.
We'll give him credit.
Yeah, it was definitely honestly playing games with Votann before that slate. It was like, oh god, I have to literally work my ass off to lose narrowly.
I definitely agree with that sentiment. Yeah,
yeah, you're just sort of like, if I just play all my cards right, do everything right, I might lose by a bit.
I'll at least get 60. I'll at least get 60.
So obviously, the data slate did change a couple of different things. If we start with the change to the judgment tokens, how do we think this kind of helps the army and opens things up?
I think it's probably like I think it was one of those changes when you look at it and you go, that doesn't seem that big a deal. But then when you actually like analyze it and go, now it means a load of my strats are proccing easier.
Yeah.
It now means obviously if you also look at most meta lists, I like to think there's probably only about 4 real threats in the lists maximum anyway.
Yes.
So which as when we talk about LGT, there is a good example of this I had in one of my games. And it's just a case of like, wow, I now get +1 hit and wound versus all this stuff, and like I've got lots of strength 5 or strength 12 or strength 10 or strength 6, and I think it's very, very good. I definitely think maybe a bit too many units to pick, but I don't know.
I think this is the best part of the data slate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you can be aggressive from the get-go.
Yes.
You don't have to sacrifice. I mean, I was running Sagittars with splitting the units to try and throw a unit of 5 away and be like, maybe the right thing will kill it, and I might get +1 hit. And, but now you stick the 4 down and you have it straight away. And I think that lets you be able to play a lot more aggressively, which as a Votann player, that they don't move fast. No. They are quite rigid. You need to be aggressive as soon as you can to try and get the edge.
Yeah, no, which I do agree, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's completely right. And I quite like 4. I mean, we'll see balance-wise if they end up needing adjustment. But what I like about 4 is that in a lot of matchups, I can pick 3 real problem units and then 1 thing where it's like, I know where you're going to be. You're going to be in the middle of the board really soon, right? Because the lovely thing that I find with Votann at the minute is people go, oh, well, you've got all this pre-game move, but I can put my Nurglings here or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you can. And I can have 4 CP next turn, because that's what happens, right? That's your choice. You can either stop my massive flood of like bikers and Sagittars and all this crap coming towards you, or you can stop me having CP. It's not very easy to do both. No. So I think 4 gives you that bit of flexibility where you can pick like a few hard targets and then something that you're like, you'll die. You're gonna die good and early. You don't look long for this world. So yeah, it's a massive change. I think the thing with the guns in the book is that they're all basically as if they've written as if you are going to get judgment a lot, right?
Yeah.
There's not like there's a bit of strength 12, like a handful of strength 12 guns, but then everything else is below. And like this is a game now where there can be a lot of like high toughness T11, T12 bodies out there. So, and it just into hordes or things like the big stacks that want to be durable, like on foot, you just suddenly go to a place where you're hitting it, wounding it on 2s, and it's just delightful. Absolutely delightful.
It's rough.
Yeah, 100%.
As you say, they are an army right now where it feels like pushing out and being quite aggressive is a way to run the army, and they do need to be on the front foot. And I find the games go best where you can set the tempo early. And now, it's a lot more feasible to do that. What do we think to the points? How do we think the points changes?
How many
points did you guys get on your list when that came in?
I got 400.
I think I got about 360.
So
I got 255. So I was obviously getting closer to the optimal build already.
I think the main thing, because this is what was quite interesting, because this is my bit that I thought made the army very powerful, is just the amount of stuff that you can have in an army. Like you can flood the table with models, which helps to play with that style of, like getting up in people's faces and know that you're not just throwing things away as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like And also, like, let's be honest, like Hearthguard were already like probably they were the standout unit in the army, and they went down as well, which was great.
I couldn't believe that. I thought
that was nuts.
I thought that was the one unit
was going to stay. It was going to be them.
Yeah, I was like, I think Thunderkin are probably fine at their points, and I think Hearthguard are probably fine. And then Thunderkin went down 20.
Someone at Games Workshop were like, write it down.
I remember we were talking about Sagittars and Hearthkin, Tom, and we were like, if they're like 225, 250 for like 10 and a Sagittar, that would be really good. And now it's like 200 points for
we were being I think we were being really reasonable in what we were asking for. We were like, just bump like 30 off Warriors in a bumper car, that's all I want. And then they're like, what if we gave you points off literally everything?
It was nuts. I just, like, the moment I saw Sagittar was 100 points and I saw Warriors were 110, I was like, 6 of those looks really good.
100%. The thing with Warriors is it's remembering that it means that 5 mans are 55. That's the crucial thing.
That's the main thing.
The little tiny tradey actiony units that sort of are the lifeblood of scoring and contesting are so cheap now. And you can really get a bunch of them on the board. I think the other thing I love with it is that it's actually opened up the characters in a way. It felt like all the characters were just so expensive that you're like, I can't, and the army was so expensive, like, I literally can't afford to take any. Like, I take 1 or 2 to get the enhancements on. Now you can kind of play around with them. Stuff like the Forge Master, which I wasn't really looking at, now makes sense because you can have Forge Master and a brick of 6, and actually that's quite a reasonably pointed unit, right?
100%.
I've seen people running like just Grimnirs in Sagittars. I've not tried this.
It's so they don't blow up, right?
It's the Richard Siegler, like, I think he went on Art of War and put 2 in, and then ever since then everyone's like, you need to take 2 of these Grimwirs or whatever they are. And I'm like, personally, I think they're crap, but, like, I'd rather just have 5 tubby bin lid headed dwarfs that make an objective sticky and just get about their day, and that's all I want. Like, I don't want these, I love 2 Gandalfs.
Yeah, exactly. I will try Gandalf at some point because I'm still painting my way through the characters. The other one I'm going to try is Uthard, the Destined, because he actually doesn't look terrible, right? He does. Did you run him at LGT?
He does look okay.
See, I'd actually chickened out. However, Danny Porter then went and proved me wrong by getting to the shadow round with him. I even said, I put on something on Insta, like, Uthar I think's all right, and everyone's like, oh yeah, shut up. And then, like, next thing I know, he's on the shadow round, and everyone's like, oh, Uthar looks okay.
Yeah, I think
like,
with him, I'd never got over just how badly written a couple of his rules on the sheet were, where he had, like, he could change a damage roll for himself. It's like he doesn't do any damage when he can any roll he can change. But then you look at the other rules and you're like, oh, actually, okay, yeah, I can see how this.
Turning all damage to 1 is very tasty. All damage to
1 is nuts, right? Especially because people are really into, like, epic challenge right now, and you go, come and epic challenge Uthar if you want, have a go. Like,
I like the idea of him just sitting, like, on a back point on his own, and if you're I'm just gonna shoot indirect at him, I'm like, good luck, mate. He definitely has a role in that. So that's something I would like to try. And also, what's nice with him is he fits in the bumper cars, right? Because he's not exo armor, so he can ride with the little foot lads. So a pest, I think he would be. That's what I would use him as. Very annoying. It's interesting. It's also interesting you call them bumper cars because I call them Hot Wheels. So, what do you call them, James? We can all have like a different.
That's one for the listeners. What cute names do you have for your Sagittars?
I mean, I do like Hot Wheels.
It's a Hot Wheel, yeah.
I like that.
Moon buggies. I've heard moon buggies.
That's a good one.
But bumper cars, I just like bumper cars because that's how I like to play them. I like to sort of yeet them up and get them in trouble.
It's a tank shock.
Yeah.
I'm into things, you know.
Oh, I love it.
I guess the net effect with the points is just that you now have your cutting edge, which is better because of the judgment, and enough stuff to go and score. Right. I think that was the killer thing. You've probably got, in terms of just actual units and spread of units for quite a chunky army, a lot more than a lot of our equivalents out there, right? You can use a lot of different assets. And it makes, with Warriors being so cheap, with that OC2 and the reach of a Sagittар, just like you become a little primary devil. You're really annoying to the opponent because until they put all these vehicles away, they're going to have a real issue scoring.
But it's with the assault rifle as well.
Yeah,
It
The
gives you that
highlights.
even extra.
Yeah. I love the highlights. Absolutely love the
No
highlights.
shame in saying I dug through all of my bits to try and find all of these weapons. I was like,
I built 2 with it initially without really looking at the stats. Looked at the stats in 9th and was like, well, this is just a wasted model.
Yeah, I did the same when I first got the box. I literally just built all the guns.
Yeah.
I was just like, just all the guns, because who knows where this will go, right?
Yeah. I like the rotary cannon, like on a weird note, the Kill Team one.
Yes.
I really like it.
I think there's actually like, because the only reason I had Magma Rails at LGT is because I didn't have like any other weapon I could want to take. But like actually now looking at it, having like 3 rates, so having like the rotary cannon, because then you could put the rotary cannon in one of the crappy units, or you just double stack and you've got like 6. Was it like it would work out as like 12 strength 6 shots or something in rapid fire with the auto rifle as well? So yeah, it's nice.
Definitely. No, exactly. I think that's kind of where they fit in, doesn't it? Because the Magma Rail is a swingy beast these days. We'll talk about Magma Rails another day, but suffice to say, I was just laughing at the Iron Hands detachment that just came out, because I was like, oh, good. So if you did run your Magma Rails, they'd just blank it with a Tech Marine, so you're right back to the bottom of the hill, even if you did try and use your 24-inch Magma Rail or your 18-inch Magma Rifle.
Oh, it's all about these cyclic ion cannons.
That's very much where the very dangerous at a short distance title for today came from. I was like, that feels quite appropriate. So a good Gimli quote as well. LAJ57 says, hello, sexiest men in 40k. We'll take that. We'll absolutely take that. That's very, very kind.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
Dante says, tank shock, Steven starts crying. I feel like there's some background to that.
we played a game last night where I tried to like pressure him into tank shocking something that would be terrible to tank shock, and then he did his classic like, just because you're peer pressure doesn't mean you should do something, and I was and then like it got to a point in like the game later on where he then was like, oh, I'm going to charge this with the Land Raider, and I was like, tank shock and he did it, and like because everybody had like, because that was like 2 hours ago, nobody then remembered. So,
I do tank shot with Votann sometimes. It's grenade. I find grenade I use all the time.
I didn't realize the bikes had it until
they do. They do. The output on the bikes never fails to amaze me. I love the Pioneers, man. They're so good.
90 points. What a unit! Like I couldn't.
That was another one. That was my 3. I was like, the Pioneers probably fine at 105, and they were like, nah, 15 off. Go nuts.
Get it down. Get it way down.
I did have one opponent where he was just like, what is this? Like, they're coming off one board edge, they're coming on the other board edge, like they're running all the way around. Like, I just don't believe it for a second. His poor immersion was breaking.
His immersion.
Yeah, he was upset with it. He didn't feel the game was playing.
What set off his immersion more? That all the grey buildings on all the same tables with the stained glass, or these little
tons of
flying bikes,
very square churches.
There's an L shape in every city.
I did think it looked a bit prettier than it has. Obviously, I like the little touches. I
will give them their credit and their flowers. I think this was, in my opinion, this was the best LGT I've ever been to.
Yeah.
But
the commitment to steadily making it look a bit more sort of bearable, I think, is good fun, right?
Yeah. I think as well, you got to respect. That's a lot of terrain.
Oh yeah, it's like
it's a lot of terrain. Yeah,
whoever Zach's employing to like sort of chop shop, like bake these, paint these, I'll give him absolute fair play.
Wonderful. Yeah. Right. Well, let's talk some games. Let's talk about how Votann have been playing post-slate, because obviously we've played a few. James, I know you've not had as much time to play, but have you been able to get any games in?
I played a couple, and I am starting to get back into it now.
Okay, great.
Baby's old enough. I've got permission, so we're all good.
And how have you found New Votann?
I mean, really good. I mean, really good. I played a few before the day of Slate and was like, these feel okay. You know, a few little bits here and there, and I think they're fine. And then I played a game against Blood Angels, and it was like, okay, here's 4 tokens. You have 4 big jump head units. Okay, there we go. Right, and then all my Thunderkin and bikes are winning you on 2s and hitting on 3s. Mm-hmm. Cool, I picked up most of them in 2 turns. And it was ludicrous. I was just like, this isn't fair.
Yeah. They go through marine bodies without like good feel no pains very, very, very fast. They really do like them.
So no, really, I mean, a lot of fun to play, and I think a lot less frustrating to play.
Yes,
because previously I was trying to run Sagittars, and so not for just the objectives, just for the cheap 5-man bodies to throw out there, try and get a judgment token on someone.
Yeah,
but hopefully someone you wanted it to be on. Using the enhancements to try and build the judgment tokens on other units. You also, before they felt quite clunky to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I think now a lot of that kind of like clunk has gone with the 4 tokens.
Yeah,
that, and as we've said, gaining 300 points on the list.
Yeah,
I was like, well, I've got I'll put another land fortress in to start with, and then I've got another 100 points.
Yeah, the land fortress is one I want to talk to you about at some stage, because obviously that's one of the units which is very like do you don't you, and I feel like a lot of players are moving away from it. I've enjoyed mine in the games that I have played. Right, I've run 2 for a lot of the games that I've played since the points drops, and I do feel at 225 it is cheap for a big durable tank that's also a transport, has decent guns on it. It's quite the OC5 I really like. I love being able to shove it on a point with the Sagittar and go, right, that's 8 OC on there already. I haven't even had to get anything out yet. You can't just throw 5 warp spiders and take it back. So what are you going to do about it? Like, kind of force the issue with that. How have you found yours?
I really like 2.
Yeah,
I do, because I always struggled with 1, because you don't want to. Again, this whole thing about being able to be aggressive. You've got 1 and you're really aggressive with it, and it dies. You then don't have any more.
Yeah, for sure.
And like being able to jump things in and out to constantly proc the reroll wounds, really, really useful when you've got more than 1. Because
the reroll wounds is amazing
in several places. Whereas before, you always felt, well, if the land fortress is over here, they can kind of play around avoiding that 1. Yeah. Whereas if you got 2, it's a lot harder to play around 2.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And because you were seeing a lot of marine game plans based around a land raider, and you're like, it was basically this. This is cheaper. Sure, it doesn't have flamers. Okay, it's not a redeemer, but it's cheaper. Basically the same. Basically the same in terms of durability. You can park it in cover and take 1 AP off it, and just laugh at people as they try and shoot like dart lancers at you, and just like, I saved all of those. Sorry. Like it's a very durable tank, and I have enjoyed 2. And every now and again, you get to use the 2 CP, shoot them back strat with it, and it's just the funniest thing in the world. Let's talk about your games, Jake. Because obviously you went all Sagittars, didn't you? And you went to LGT very recently. So do you want to rattle through kind of how you found playing them since the change?
Yeah. So I've played 2 tournaments with them in the last 2 weekends, because I have a lot of time on my hands. And I'll just talk briefly about the first time I ran Votann at an event, because I hadn't really played them much in 10th, and I ran 30 Hearthguard.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was cool. I had to call in a lot of favors as well. But they were like, it felt okay, but like my main issue with it was just like, once they're in an area, that's them done for the game. Yes. And if you make that like bad decision, then you've really scuppered yourself. Now, obviously, the way of improving that is make the right decision. But then this is where the whole Sagittar thing came in, because I was like, do you know what? I had 2, and I was like, these are mega. I wonder what happens if I was to run 6 of them. And I've owned 6 for ages since Warhammer Fest, because I wanted to run 6 at Warhammer Fest as my last, like, this is my last 9th edition singles event with Votann. Mm-hmm. I want to do it. Then didn't do it. Didn't run land forts. They're not my type of thing, I don't think, for my play style. I used to run 2 all the time. And didn't. But main thing with LGT, so first game I played Dark Angels, and now to shock everybody in the room, they were actually Dark Angels. They were the Unforgiven. I know. I didn't know what this thing did. I was flapping. I was like, oh God, is it the case of he knows something I don't, and he's going to really catch me out? So it was good, because like the Deathwing Knights get the 6-up feel no pain from the Bannerman, which was well annoying. But ultimately, sadly, it was the case of, like James alluded to when he played Blood Angels, you have 4 big units. I have 4 judgment tokens to give out. You're about to get all of those. So like turn 1, like it was like a massacre. Like the Lion rapid ingress down, I shot him with a magma rail. It finally worked. I rolled a 6 on the Deathwings, did 6 damage to him straight up. And I was like, right. And yeah, so like that was a good game though. It was 84-52, I think. So like really the Sagittars really pulled their weight in that mission as well, because it was a mission I wasn't too confident in.
What guns do you run on Sagittars, out of curiosity?
So I ran the missiles.
Okay.
Just purely for the like head work of you get 2 really good shots, you then get 1 like okay swingy shot, you get a blast shot, or like either or. And I think like with the current meta, like where you're seeing a load of different armies as well, like I think there's
it's flexible, right?
Yeah. And also the other thing about the blast was I was finding like with the +1 to wound, I didn't have a problem with going, okay, well, I'll shoot the blast into you first. Here's D6 plus X, the amount of shots. And then I'll try and chip that wound off. And then now I can hit you with my bolter or my my missiles. So I ran missiles. I don't know. I like the
People
little
quite
lads.
like what they call the lottery gun, right? The little the sustained D3.
Yeah, it
the
either
other thing I
worked.
quite like about the missiles is one of them's 36-inch range.
Yes,
that was
you
the
can
big
play
thing.
further back with them. Whereas
That
the Highlands and obviously the rest of them, they're all 24 or 18.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's 24 or 18, right?
Yeah.
The army in general, the ranges are so short that a good player can really control your engagements quite aggressively. Sometimes you can feel like it's really hard to get these 18, 24-inch guns into the right things. Whereas a Sag is one of those lovely units where it can be parked somewhere and you're like, oh, I need to finish something off. And it's like, is the Sag range? Yes, it is, because it's got lovely long range and it can actually help
and
out.
especially if you've got 6 of them, you've got a little bit of flexibility to go, well, you know, they'll at least have the missiles in range.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they can hose stuff down.
Yeah, the main thing was like playing into certain things of like where I needed to screen. Like it was nice to know that a Sagittar could just sit there and then, like you said, you know, because he's got 36-inch range, you can just sort of go, I'm not completely useless. Because I found I really needed the warriors on those points to double down on the OC.
Yes.
And then my second game I played Black Templars. This was I lost this game, but it was an absolutely fantastic game. I played an absolutely sound gentleman called Anthony, who was lovely, and we just had a super good game. He ran triple Redemptor, and then this is where I was like,
that's what I also played round 2.
I hated triple Redemptor, also because of the LGT ruling of the ignoring model modifiers. So I don't know how familiar you are with this, James, but they ruled it that the model's characteristic modifiers are not the AP and damage on their weapons, is pretty much,
which
is the long and short.
It's not good.
Yeah, I mean, because most other places have been ruling the other way.
Yeah, that it is. Yeah,
almost everywhere. So that sucks.
Because
you want to put that on the Hearthguard plasma.
So like a Mong, I didn't read that in the little rules docket because I just assumed that, you know, that's how it would be played. So I had Grim Demeanor on a Forge Master and a big unit of Thunderkin, who then proceeds to like basically Anthony's flipping me off like with I'll just Armor of Contempt and -1 damage on these Redemptors, and I'm like, why won't you die?
Yeah, the thing with it is that without Grim Demeanor, I just don't know what you do for a Redemptor. Like just Vulcanite Mortals and hope. But if they're not stood in front for you to,
that's what ended up happening. But no, he was lovely. This was also where I saw the downside of the Sagittar list, because we were playing Purge the Foe, and it was very much the case of I went first as well. So I put a unit out to try and, you know, like stage or try and, you know, get ready for sort of if he wants to. Ended up managing then, because like where the terrain, I've got a lot of models as well. You know, cuts an angle with a Redemptor, bang, there's a Sagittar dead. That's, you know, kill more. Like that happened twice in a row, which was sad. But no, like overall, it turned once like the game got into its flow and stuff. Like it was really good. The Volkite unit was amazing into the Crusader blob. Because it was just 40 plus 10d6 shots with sustained, hitting on 2s, winning on 3s. I don't care what I don't care what your save is. Like you get it. I'm gonna make you take them. Like,
I love the Hearthguard bricks into like a 3-up save. It's just funny because you're just like, it's just going to keep coming. Like your armor is good, but this is so many shots.
Yeah,
people lose their minds when you start rolling the shots on like a Hearthguard unit.
You do the main gun, you're like, right, so and then it's 10d6 shot. What?
Yeah, it's 10d6 plus 20 after you've done that. Like they're like, oh, I've taken a hit here, and they're like, here comes the rest.
Yeah. It was amazing. Like having no AP, generally, like it's probably one of the only units I've ever gone. Do you know what? I don't care about having AP
100%.
because I've got so many dice, and the fact they're sustained. I had the Carl in there to give him lethal as well.
Yeah, I really like that.
So just like it was amazing. Third game I played against Vanguard Onslaught Nids. Now this was a really weird one because it was like a mix between some big monsters and like lots of little units. We had two big blobs of warriors with the Hive Prime dude that like can give them sustained. They were quite scary. He had a Hive Tyrant. He had like Death Leaper, 3 Nero Lictors, double Malin Scepter, Exocrines, all this good stuff. Loads of gargoyles as well. And I think the main thing that helped me in this game was definitely the judgment tokens. That came in massive because those Malin Scepters being like toughness 11 was just like the annoying spot of like, I need +1 to wound here really, really badly, and you don't have tanks, so my grav is useless. And that was a really good game. I thought he had me when he brought in both Malin Scepters on one flank and like just blasted off a ton of stuff. And then I managed to, with the speed of the Sagittars and the Warriors, like getting them in the Sagittars and moving. Like it actually then just sort of won me the game where he put them, because then I could just instantly swap to the other side of the board.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
and claim that side.
They give you the flexibility to mix it up.
Yeah, so that was like that was one of the games where I was like, having 6 Sagittars has won me this game.
Yeah.
And then going into day 2, I played Custodians. I drew with them. On pay, like genuinely a really good matchup, like for Votann. I feel because of
because there's like 4 bricks, right? And you just go, here comes the judgment.
So he had double Caladius, so I put 2 judgment tokens on them just because I was like, I've never played against these. I'm really worried about them. They're probably going to kill my Sagittar. Managed to get a really lucky turn 1 by killing. I put 2 Sagittar into one of them and managed to kill it.
Oh wow!
Because I've just managed to cut the angle. Because he deployed it, he deployed it in a really weird way of like, if I go first, I don't have to move to shoot you type of thing. But if you go first, you're going to absolutely pepper me with one of them. So managed to get that in, killed one that set the tempo for the game. And then we were playing priority targets. He went second. I very foolishly forgot he had a Calidus Assassin. So spent 15 minutes trying to screen him off of this 2-man unit of Terminators that I know I couldn't kill. And then just for him to hit me with the bad news of, I'm gonna pick my Calidus up now, and I was like, don't you dare. And but it was such Nate, he's such a lovely chap. We had a really great game, but definitely, like, it was like stars aligned. We got a draw there, and then final game I played some guy called John Scrivo.
John Scrivens,
he's
been playing Votann a lot lately because I've been practicing with him. Locally.
Yeah, he did say
deal with a lot of Votann.
And he was saying to me, he's like, oh yeah, I've played Tom's one in practice games and stuff, so this will be really interesting. He went first. I pre-game moved to Sag near the midfield because I sort of wanted to try and bait his unit of Deathwing Knights out really early. Like good old John, he just he took the bait, charged them in, killed the Sagittar, and then like proceeded to have like a nice little sort of stake on the middle objective.
That is the other thing Sagittars do, right? Is they're good for drawing people out because they sort of harassment. The OC is not bad.
Yeah, it brought like a 400 point brick out with like the captain and stuff. And then like Hearthguard shot. I think they killed like 6 or 7 of them, just from like the mass dice,
sheer volume.
So that was good. And then I believe I put them down to like 1 model and the captain. Going into John's turn, I managed to also take a few wounds off his Land Raider as well. Aggressors came out, absolutely peppered my Hearthguard, but I was like, do you know what? Like, I've now set myself up really nicely for this. And then just like sadly, it was the case of kill the Land Raider, kill the Deathwing Knights, kill the aggressors. I've got so much OC as well. Like just the amount of models, I just still can't get over it. Just a casual like unit of Thunderkin, just like waddled onto the board and just picked up a unit of aggressors with the Biophagus or whatever his name is. I was like, oh my lordy. I was like, how many points is that unit? He was like, 300 odd. I'm like, well, it sucks to be you. This is like 230, and like if we're playing proper rules, like this also ignores every single rule in the game. Apparently,
it should be even better than it is. It's funny, you talked about monsters with Thunderkin, and that is literally the only problem they don't solve. They solve every other problem. It's like Hordes, Thunderkin will kill it. Marines, Thunderkin will kill it. Vehicles, Thunderkin will kill it. It's so good.
Which is why I actually do quite like the Sagittaire list, because the Sagittaires then deal with monsters.
Yes.
They
were mega good. Like like I said, like alluding to with the like Sagittars helped me win that game. It was just the fire output as well, being the nice having the strength 12 gun. So then I was reading the Malinceptors on twos.
Is crazy good, right?
Yeah, flat 3 as well. Like just singing all its praises. But yeah, so ended the event 3 wins, a draw and a loss. So like scoring, lowest score was 77, highest score was 87. So within that sort of 10-point range.
They feel hard to beat, right? They feel like one that always puts up a decent number. I think even
just
in the
like
games.
Even in the games where I was like, I'm getting trounced, I actually looked at the table and was like, oh no, I'm not. I've still got so much stuff left.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think. Yeah, overall, I really like the list. I think there's only very minute changes I would make. The first change would be reading the pack and seeing if they're playing Green Marine properly, and then making an informed decision from then. But But the other thing as well, my list was 1975. I don't have 25 points.
No, it's really, the points are still a bit awkward. I keep writing lists where it's like 55 and you're like, there is nothing I can get for 55.
Now I have to drop
I can't do anything. I've got to cut it up and start again.
Like overall, I think it was very positive. Really, really good. I think if I was to make any changes, it would probably actually be dropping 1 Sagittar. And only because then it means I can start a unit of warriors on the table to stick in my backfield early. And then using those points and maybe making a unit of 6 bikes. But honestly, like, I don't think I want to. Like, I actually just love the list how it is.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. It has that nice feeling at the moment where it feels like you can play around with different units and try different things. 6 bikes does occasionally. I'm like, it would just be nice for every game to start with me throwing 6 bikes at someone just to get everything else up the board. That is quite a fun option to have. And I keep looking at Berserks. I know you and I had talked about Berserks, James. They're one of those units where it's like there's a couple of matchups where I would love to just have some guys with axes or hammers to just deal with
mega
stuff
useful
to my lines.
This was against the Blood Angels. I think I ran a unit of 5 with Mauls. And he ran a unit of Death Company to mine. And the fight on death, I killed the whole unit.
Yeah. Oh god.
And it was just like it
feels to me for Chaos Space Marines as well, because they like to send those little chosen squads out, and you're like, if what they hit killed them back, that's a very different game in terms of 100% pattern on the objectives. So I do think 5 or 10 in 2 5s, like in and amongst the bumper cars, as it were, might have a place.
Because I've been running 2 Land Fortresses as well. It's you can separate the Hearthguards, the Hearthkin squads with Sagittarius, put 5 in a Land Fortress, and then 5 Berserks.
Which
I quite like.
I think it's mega solid, like legit. I actually like. I haven't looked at the Berserkers personally just because of how like the list archetype, but actually after the weekend, like just sort of thinking about some of the matchups, I was like, do you know what? Just a 5-man Berserker brick just to go in,
just to push something off that's got a little bit too close.
It could move block. It could, it could punch something off, and then while it's move blocking, if you're playing against an army that can't like shoot it off, or like if you're quite clever with how you place it, doesn't matter if they interrupt. It doesn't matter if you're going to fight first. If you can get that fight on death up. So overall very solid. 3 wins, a draw, and a loss. Finished like 146th. It was my best result LGT I've ever had.
Really cool.
Was
really
happy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where do we think in terms of power balance, do we think they are a problem now, or do we think they're okay? Where do we think they kind of sit in the game?
It's weird because I think comparatively they're not a problem, but then maybe
because of other problems.
I think Eldar and potentially Chaos Marines look like a slight problem. Cult, I think, is weird because I think again they're very much like a Grey Knight issue where like a good player on Cult is mentally good,
Yeah,
but
they
on
feel
their
a bit
own, they're
anemic
not.
to me now. I think, yeah.
I think they're fine because
Yeah.
they do have clear weaknesses you can exploit.
Yeah.
And for any army that looks strong, if they've got clear weaknesses, then I feel like them being as strong as they are is okay.
Yeah,
Because
I think
there'll be
they
some
feel
matchups you roll up
feel
to.
hugely oppressive into some matchups,
Yeah.
particularly like skew. Like
Yeah.
they just go through skew like it doesn't exist. Whether it's bodies or vehicles, like Chaos Knights, I'm just like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna absolutely annihilate all of these vehicles.
There's nothing you can do here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like starting to double hand the models back. It's
Yeah.
like it's but it's like it's no, you can use both hands in Warhammer as well, is the famous phrase we have in our little team. So like if someone's being a bit slow on the movement, it's like, no, don't worry, you can use both hands.
Here's both your big knights.
Yeah, and here's these as back as well. Now I do agree. I think for the matchups that like other armies will look at and go, oh, I don't really know how to deal with that. Votann deals super well into it. I think if the top armies get nerfed a bit more, like we've seen, I definitely think they could jump. And this is also how I felt about Chaos Space Marines as well, where they were like sitting about like mid to high, like high win rate. Other things have been nerfed, and now they've just leapfrogged up. When I think we could see the exact same thing happen again.
Yeah, for me, it depends a little bit on whether 2-up save Dreadnought Iron Hands thing becomes like a very common list, because that is one that I'm looking at and going, that's horrible for Votann.
It's also now way cheap because of the new points on Space Marines as well. So
140 for one of the dreads or something. It's just
Ballistus is 140, a Redemptus is 200. So you could run triple Redemptor, triple Ballistus, and still have points for other things.
Yeah, so
whatever you want, really.
We'll have to see where they sit, but that might have a role. Okay, great. Well, we don't want to make the debut one too long, so I'm going to give you a little bit of Votann lore for everybody. Then we'll answer the question that we got in the chat. Call it a day. So settle in, because I'm going to tell you about the Einhir Champion, Votann fans. So the Einhir are elite, highly armoured Votann troops saved specifically for shock assaults, deep striking attacks, and boarding parties. And their champions, the great big wrecking ball guys, are armoured in giant exo frames with a mass accelerated driver that enables them to move at intense speed for a short period of time. So suddenly, like Kool-Aid Man through something. They carry enormous ram shields. That's the massive thing on its arm, which combined with the speed boost basically turns this champion into a living battering ram capable of smashing down fortress gates and enemies. And the name Einhir itself is actually a play on Einherjar of Norse mythology, which literally means army of one, which I thought was quite cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So that obviously Votann has borrowed in a way I really like from like Norse mythology and insignia and stuff. I love the way they've done that. I think it's really cool, and the Einhir champ was a good one for that. I thought I'd flag it up because obviously there is a new model coming. I believe it's 4 days from now. Is it? Oh no, it's the 14th of October. I think it is.
A week and a bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll be able.
I really like it.
It's so good because it's one of those units you could run 2 of. It's like I definitely do want to have a couple.
Yeah. I do want to try a list with 2 in. I do.
Yeah, the charge
I did run
is
3.
a lot bigger than I appreciated. Yeah.
Free with the 30 Hearth Guard was good fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Einhir champ for you. So just to finish up, we've got one Votann question in the chat. If you do have any others, you who are currently watching, feel free to chuck Votann questions in here and we'll endeavour to field them. But this one, I mean, you could go for a while with this, so this is great. We've got, what type of new units do you want to see in the new codex? You can each have a couple each, right? Okay, so think, maybe we go with you, James, first.
I want to see, so I don't know how familiar people are with the Necromunda stuff. They've got the kind of squat dread walker things.
Yes.
I want those. I want those in Votann.
Yeah. Is that like Paragon size, like sort of
mid mid dread size, as it were?
That really appeals to me as well. In squads of 3, or is that too much?
No, I think that'd be fine.
I think it would be fine.
Squads of 3, and you have a larger one on its own.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
How about you, Jake?
I really like the jump pack dude from the kill team. I think like a unit of those. Equally, a unit of this was the joke we we were all saying in the chat for VT when the Knuckle Duster Votann man came
the
out.
little punch guy.
Just a unit of him, but but then to actually make it proper, like a ranger type scouting unit, so like the pioneers, but not on bikes.
Yeah, so like
That'd be cool,
trench
actually.
coats,
Where he's the
sniper
leader.
rifles. It's just a Knuckle Duster guy.
Yeah, and
that would be fun.
Yeah, so jump pack people, I think, is definitely have always been the one. Like, especially since also like James, we were talking about beforehand, where you bought Caradrons and to try and make it like squats for you. Having that sort of jump pack aesthetic for me, I think would look so cool.
That'd be really cool.
100%. I actually,
sorry,
Pioneers on foot, I really like.
Yeah.
Pioneers on foot would be really cool. Little snipers. I wouldn't mind. I mean, this was more from a gameplay perspective. If you could get like a cheap Ironkin unit, that'd be so useful.
Like servitors.
Yeah, like servitors that you could just do actions with on screen.
Well, I'll do you one more. What about like a Thunderfire cannon equivalent, but but instead of shooting, it can do like what Biovores do, and it just spawns.
A little Ironkin out. That'd be amazing.
But it's just like
the mole launcher thing.
Yeah, but the model, like they have to make like ironically cute or something, so then Instagram goes mental, and then you're like, do I want to summon it? Because then it has to die, and like, you know.
And then the opponent's like, do I want to kill it? Because it's cute.
Yeah. They're like, that's so adorable.
Purely melee Hearthguard that are like shield and like a big like halberd or something. Like,
that would be cool.
Really durable, proper like lock a point down. Extra wound. Maybe we could have -1 damage back. That would be nice. Like something like that, like a proper tanky Deathwing Knight type dwarf unit for the middle. But I like the idea of like proper like spears, like sort of halberdy type spears. I think
you could even do like Thunderkin, but with melee weapons.
Yes, that would be cool.
That would be sick, actually.
Yeah, Thunderkin with like two big axes or something.
Because I like the idea for them having like a Mornian Vow type equivalent.
Yeah. Absolutely. And some sort of berserker character would be sick as well to lead a berserk squad in like a Sagittarius. So you have like the sixth guy, and it's like a little nutter with some like, I don't know, Master of Executioners type rules, but not like obviously not like crazy, but something
just like an Iron Hair champion, but like isn't like his damage. It's more damage,
more damage and less durable, right? He's a proper like missile character. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I think it's what's great, right? Because they do have such a limited roster. There's so many ways they could go.
Yeah, and it can only be pleasing. That's the lovely thing about it. It's like the start of the adventure is very good fun, right? Because I'd be really happy with most things.
It's very similar to how they did Sisters, I feel, is how we're going to see this. Like, here's a load of stuff that you're sort of familiar with and, like, is the, like, older style. And then this is now the direction we want to look at with it. I think would be super cool. I'm really interested. No one said flyers, like a flyer.
Well, because I was saving that because we got a question that's what sort of unit don't you want added to Votann?
No
I'm
flyers.
going to chuck flyer right in there because flyers can all piss off. I hate flyers. Flyers are fucking annoying.
Flyers are like the single like. I don't know, like whenever you throw the flyer thing in there, it's either they have to be insanely broken or like completely useless.
Because it's either my flyers, I never use them. Like they have like 10 minutes where they're good, and they're too good, and they're not fun, or they sit on the shelf. So that would be sad because I want to use on my models. I'll tell you what I would take is like a little bitty gyrocopter thing, like a little sort of little flying, like a land speeder, but like maybe some little propellers going on, something a bit steampunky. I think that would be fun. That does us because I think speed, although actually this index in some ways is quite quick, speed in general and little boopy things would be quite nice to have.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would not want to see added?
I don't know, actually.
I mean, anything really.
I think I'm so gagging for like something new because I know they've only been out a year, but I think a lot of us can attest that like because like this is our hobby, right? Like so you spend so much time doing it that actually like they've only been out a year. It's like but I've been looking at the same thing for a year. Like that's a long time. Like I get Eldar players, crying over like Aspect Warriors and stuff. And like at least that's a bit longer, but for us where we're like going to events very regularly, playing as much as we can, doing hobby, it's like if this is one of the only armies you do enjoy, like for myself, this is the only army I actually enjoy hobbying and painting.
It's been the same for me, but I think that's partly because I broke myself by trying to do GSC, and now it's like, oh my god, I can paint like 40 dudes and it's ready. Like
it is that, and I think like it's hard to think of units you don't. I guess if I had to say anything of what I don't want, I don't want more wizards because I'm very like dwarves should not have magic. They are runes
I
and
think
priests.
I was gonna say, I think I'd rather them go kind of like rune priest if they brought something else out rather than like a wizard.
More of a chaplain type position.
Yeah, I think that's something they are definitely missing, and it would be cool. Like, I was very interested when they did do the wizard. I was like, oh, this is very
quite
native
refreshing,
to me.
right? It is quite refreshing.
But I do think the Grimnir fits very well.
Yes, he does. Yeah,
and I thought they nailed the lore for him, but we'll save that for another episode. It's fine. The lore for the Grimnir is quite good. It's quite enjoyable. They just need to work out where the hell he fits in the army at the moment. He is in a slightly funny spot. Maybe he could have been a good loan off. I don't know. I love that he's got a 24-inch gun. I didn't spot that the first time. I was like, oh, his magic blast is like it's the same range as like a Magna Rail. Okay, that's fine.
And it's longer than a Magna Rail. Come on.
It's more consistent than a Magma Rail. That's
let's not even start. Let's not even start. Oh my word, that's an appropriate note to end on. The most Votann thing there is missing with your Magna Rail. So thank you very much to everyone who tuned in. Oh no, look, we've got one more. Sindri's coming with a detachment wish list.
Oh, this is a good one.
That's a great question, Sindri. We'll absolutely answer that. So, from a selfish personal perspective, gimme Cronus, gimme angry, punchy, fighting dwarves all day long. Give them just World Eaters rules in a detachment and then just run your dwarfs at people. I'll be all over that. What would you guys like?
See, I'm the same. I really, really want my Berserks to be... I mean, they're good, don't get me wrong, but I want an excuse to run like 30.
Yeah.
But I think it's coupled on the fact that at the moment, it's hard to go where would you go with different detachments because there's such a limited roster.
That's the issue.
So, right? If we had a Berserker detachment, well... You then only got Berserks and maybe a couple of Landforts in, and then you've still got like 1,000 points left to fill.
Yeah,
I'd love it if like that sort of thing made different units battle line as well. So like the Berserker detachment is Berserker's battle line. I think that would actually be quite cool.
They've not done this yet, have they? They haven't gone there. That'd be taking it quite an Age of Sigmar place.
Yeah,
but it would be cool.
I'm gonna go different purely just because I'm that sort of person. I was about to say twat. I miss my Ymir.
I knew you were going to say Ymir.
I miss the invols so much. Like every time, even at my first event, I was so used to just being like I remember I played a chap called Charles in the first round, lovely chap, and I was like, okay, so I got 5 of invol, and I was like, wait, no, I don't. They're dead. And just like something like that, or I would say like the Yajurani submarine, whatever it's called, the +1 toughness one.
Yes.
But they've sort of baked that in now, so I feel like that's probably not how they're going to go. I would like
with like an Ymir one, maybe you could have beam come back just as a strat rather than like all your guns have beams. You can like use a beam somewhere. Like a conversion weapon can do a beam effect with a strat, so it's a bit less like brutal and oppressive, but you can get that kind of, because it was quite a unique sort of mechanic. I mean, people hated it, but it was like I think that being back in some capacity would be quite fun.
Yeah, I definitely like bring my Ymir back. Maybe not as like insane as it was. Maybe just like
no, absolutely not.
Maybe like 6 up invol for the army, 5 up invol for anything with 2 up save or something like that. And then just give me lots of like I just miss it. Okay, like I just miss having it.
Yeah. That book had so many strats as well.
Yeah, it did.
And they were all amazing as well. Like,
I mean, the poor accelerated keyword, you know.
Yeah. Well, I guess like one of the biggest changes was now we have to roll advanced rolls from the index to like we had to.
I quite like it. I like being able to get a bit further if you need to. I think it's quite nice.
But equally, I hate the fact if I roll a 102.
Yeah.
At least you knew what you were getting, you know.
I assume there'll be like a sneaky one. That's where if pioneers and those kind of guys get a couple more units, then you can do detachment, what gives them a bit of play and a bit.
I think the detachment wish list really depends on like how hard they want to go on the second wave.
Yeah,
because if they want to go really hard, which I think with
go hard.
Always go hard. Right. I think that with the roadmap, it's a good indication that they're not in the next year. So maybe it is an indication of they are going to go hard. I hope they are.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
But then it also means we've got another year of playing the same 8 units.
Yeah, exactly that. We're going to need to space these episodes out. Is the
and next year's episode on episode 2 of Rock and Stone. How did we all get on at LGT with our 6 Sagittars?
Right. Okay. We will wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for listening. Sorry about technical issues at the start. Obviously, this is a new project. We're very excited. We'll be back again. I reckon next time we'll dive into kind of the index itself, talk about the sort of detachment rules, stratagems, those kind of things, how we use them. So I don't know when that'll be, but it'll be in the not so distant future. Obviously, lovely to chat to you guys, Jake and James. This was a nice excuse to do that. So that was awesome. Obviously, Vanguard Tactics, Toys of Mass Destruction, 6++, all very much out in the world. Check us out. Listen to our stuff. I know Toys do some wonderful events not too far from me, kind of Harpenden area, that are really worth going to. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks very much for listening in. Rock and Stone. We will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.